The goal of the grok, you know that moment when someone really sees you, not the version of you think you're supposed to be, not the role you're performing, not the filtered highlight reel you show the world, but you. That moment when someone looks at you and doesn't just acknowledge your presence, but actually witnesses your being. That feeling, that's the feeling women love. And it's not about grand gestures or extravagant declarations. It's about attunement. It's about presence. It's about being able to look at someone and say, without a single word, I see all of you, and I'm still here. So often we're taught to perform, to hustle for worth, to earn affection through achievement or appearance or accommodation. But the truth is that wears on the soul, because deep down, women want to be met in the quiet, in the in-between, in the undone, when the mascara is smudged, or the confidence is cracked, or the answers aren't clear. When you can sit across from her and asking her to smile or soften or shine, you just let her be, that's when she feels seen. That's when something clicks. It's in the small, unscripted moments. When she tells you something vulnerable and you don't look away. When she's quiet and you don't rush to fill the silence. When she's laughing so hard she snorts and you don't cringe or correct. Goal of the gray rock, you just let her have it. That's when she knows you're not just looking at her. You're seeing into her. And it's not about fixing her or figuring her out. It's about witnessing, staying, being with. And if I'm being really honest, seeing someone like that, truly seeing them, requires courage, because it means slowing down. It means removing the lens of who you think she should be and being willing to experience who she actually is. And sometimes that's messy. Sometimes that's complicated. But if you're brave enough to meet her there, something powerful happens. She stops performing. She starts breathing. She opens, because the opposite of being seen is being invisible. And invisibility in relationships is soul-crushing. It leads to resentment, numbness, loneliness, even in the presence of another. So when you choose to see her, not just when she's glowing, the gray rock, but when she's raw, that's when connection becomes real. That's when love takes root. It's not always pudic, it's often quiet, but it's deeply, undeniably human. And here's the true thing: when a woman feels seen, fully seen, she doesn't have to armor up. She doesn't have to question her worth in the relationship. She doesn't have to shrink. She expands. Let her expand. There's this idea floating around that strength means having it all together, that real men don't cry and vulnerability is weakness. But if we really want connection, real can have to let that myth die. Because here's the truth: women don't fall in love with the mask. They don't connect with the armor. They connect with what's underneath. And the feeling that draws them in, the one they love and remember and trust, is the feeling of safe vulnerability. It's easy to open up when things are going well, when you feel in control. But can you show her the parts of you that feel uncertain? Can you say, I don't know, or that hurt, or I'm afraid of losing this, without folding into shame? That's where intimacy lives. Not in the polished answers, but in the honesty, the openness, the courage to show your heart, even when it's trembling a little. And it's not just about sharing your own vulnerability. It's about creating a space where she can bring hers too, where she doesn't feel like she has to walk on eggshells or only bring her happy, composed self, where she knows she can fall apart sometimes without it costing her your respect. That kind of safety, it's rare. And when a woman feels it, it changes everything. See, emotional safety isn't about always knowing the right thing to say. It's about staying, not fixing, not minimizing, just being there. Emotionally available, honest, present. A woman knows when you're doing it. She can feel when you're not just hearing her, but actually letting her in. And when she sees you doing the hard thing, being emotionally open even when it's uncomfortable, it tells her something profounding. This is someone I can trust with my truth. We don't talk about it enough, but emotional availability is one of the most powerful forms of intimacy. Because when you strip away the ego, when you let her see the real you, the hopes, the messy middle, You give her permission to do the same. That's when walls fall. That's when hearts meet. And yes, vulnerability comes with risk. Always, there's the risk of rejection, of misunderstanding, of discomfort. But the alternative is numbness, distance, loneliness masked as independence. So you have to ask yourself, what matters more? Avoiding pain or creating something meaningful. Because when a woman feels safe in your presence, when she knows she can show you the raw, unfiltered parts of her soul and you won't flinch or shame or run, that's when she lets herself belong, not perform, not impress, just belong. Give her that feeling. We talk a lot about passion and chemistry and excitement when it comes to relationships. And yes, those things matter, but they're not what sustains love, not really. What sustains love is something quieter, something slower. It's emotional consistency, the grounded sense that you show up, not just when it's convenient, not just when it's exciting, but always. That's the feeling women love. That's what makes them feel safe, because unpredictability is exhausting. The gray rock, when a woman doesn't know which version of you she's going to get. When one day you're all in and the next you're emotionally distant, her nervous system doesn't know how to rest. And when her nervous system can't rest, her heart doesn't open. She's constantly scanning for disappointment, bracing for the moment when you pull away. That's not love. That's survival. Emotional consistency doesn't mean you have to be perfect. It doesn't mean you don't have bad days or need space. It means you communicate. You return. You don't disappear when things get hard. You don't punish with silence. You don't make her feel like she has to earn your affection over and over again just to feel close to you. Instead, you anchor her with your steadiness. You let her gray rock. You let her know, I'm here, I'm not going anywhere. And here's the thing, emotional consistency is built in the ordinary moments. It's in the check-in text that says, thinking of you. It's in the way you remember the hard conversation from last week and ask how she's doing. It's in the steady eye contact when she's speaking. It's not about big dramatic gestures. It's about reliability. It's about making your presence predictable in a world that often isn't. When a woman knows she can count on you emotionally, not just physically, not just financially, but emotionally, that's when she softens. That's when her guard lowers, because she's no longer wondering if she's too much. She's no longer shrinking parts of herself to avoid pushing you away. She trusts the ground you've created together. And I know for some people, consistency sounds boring, but I'll tell you this. There is nothing boring about being someone's safe place. There is nothing boring about being the person she exhales around, because once she trusts your consistency, everything opens. Laughter comes easier, intimacy deepens, the love gets richer, not because of constant fireworks, but because of the deep-rooted safety you've nurtured through your presence. Women remember the ones who made them feel emotionally safe, not just loved in the good times, but loved through the storm. Show her you're that kind of steady. You can't love someone deeply and still treat them like they're beneath you. Real love doesn't thrive in control or condescension or correction. It lives in respect, the kind of respect that doesn't just show up when things are easy, but especially when they're not. When emotions are high, when opinions clash, when she says no or disagrees or sets a boundary, that's when the truth of your respect is revealed. And the feeling women love, what makes them feel safe and deeply connected, is the feeling of unconditional respect. Respect is not a favor you hand out when she behaves the way you like. It's not something earned only when she agrees with you. It's the baseline. It's the foundation, and it shows up in all the small ways. How you speak to her, how you speak about her when she's not around, how you respond when she's vulnerable, how you listen when she's angry or disappointed or overwhelmed. Because here's what I've seen over and over again: when a woman feels respected, she doesn't have to guard herself. She doesn't have to constantly assess the room, shrink her voice, or make herself smaller to protect your ego. Respect says, you can be all of you here. You can be bold and messy and wild and tender. You don't have to shrink to stay loved, and that's powerful. It's so easy to slip into patterns of control and call it care, to disguise insecurity as authority. But control is not love, and respect is not optional when love is real. A woman can feel when she's being handled versus when she's being honored. A gray rock. There's a difference between someone who listens to her just to fix her and someone who listens to her because her voice matters. There's a difference between someone who respects her choices and someone who tolerates them until he gets his way. Women know the difference. The goal of the gray rock, and let me be clear, respect doesn't mean agreement all the time. It means staying grounded even when you don't agree. It means making room for her autonomy, her beliefs, her process, even when they're different from yours. It means recognizing her humanity in every interaction, not just her beauty, not just her softness, but the whole of her. Because if she doesn't feel respected, she can't feel safe. And if she doesn't feel safe, she can't fully love. It's that simple. Respect is the soil. It's what allows love to grow roots and weather the storms. It's what turns connection from fleeting into lasting. So if you want to love her well, love her in a way that honors her dignity, even when it's inconvenient, even when it stretches you. Especially then, that's when it counts. There's a kind of listening that changes everything. Not the gray rock. I'm not talking about the kind of listening where you're nodding while secretly preparing your response or where you're waiting for your turn to talk. I'm talking about the kind of listening where your entire body is present. Your phone is down. Your mind isn't racing ahead. You're not trying to fix or solve or impress. You're just there fully. And let me tell you, women love that feeling. The feeling of being deeply, intend the gray rock, intentionally listen to, because when you listen like that, it's not just about hearing words. It's about witnessing experience. And when a woman feels heard in that way, something powerful happens. She relaxes. Her nervous system lets go. She no longer feels like she's fighting for space or for your attention. She feels understood. And not just for what she says, but for what she means. For what's underneath the words. For what she's too tired or guarded or too overwhelmed to explain. And we don't realize how often women feel unheard. Not because we're bad people, but because we've been conditioned to listen with an agenda, to listen for problems so we can offer solutions, to listen for the important parts and skip over the emotional ones. But that skips her whole inner world. And when you do that enough times, she learns to go quiet, not because she doesn't care, but because she doesn't feel safe bringing her full self to you anymore. Real listening says, you matter, your voice matters, I won't rush you. The gray rock, I won't dismiss you. I'm not trying to change what you feel, I'm just here to feel it with you. That's the kind of listening that builds intimacy. That's the kind of listening that invites her to open up even more, to trust you with the unpolished, raw, and real parts of her life. And here's the truth. This kind of listening takes practice. It takes humility. It takes being willing to sit in discomfort without trying to control it. It takes learning how to hold silence without panicking. It takes letting go of the need to be the hero and just becoming the witness. When you listen without judgment, without interruption, without needing her to land on the right conclusion, you tell her she's not alone. You tell her her thoughts are worth space. You tell her emotions don't scare you. That kind of presence is more attractive than anything else you could offer. Because when a woman feels truly listened to, she doesn't just feel understood. She feels valued. She feels loved not for what she gives, but for who she is. And that's the kind of love she remembers. We live in a world that tells women constantly, quietly, and sometimes brutally that they need to be edited to be lovable, be smaller, be softer, be agreeable, be nice. Be quiet. Don't feel too much. Don't want too much. Don't be too much. And so many women learn to contort themselves into the version of themselves they think will be accepted, the version that won't scare anyone off, the version that won't be called dramatic or needy or difficult. But here's the truth. What women long for is freedom, the freedom to be their whole selves and still be loved. And that's the feeling they fall in love with the most. When you give a woman the space to be all of who she is, the bold and the broken, the fire and the softness, the ambition and the mess, you give her something so raring: permission. Permission to stop performing, permission to exhale, permission to take up space in her own life and in yours. And it's not about agreeing with everything she says or understanding everything she feels. It's about saying, you don't have to shrink here. You don't have to filter who you are to be safe with me. That kind of love is not loud. It's not flashy, but it's liberating. And you can feel it in the way she starts to unfold. The way she shows you sides of herself she's hidden for years, not because you demanded it, but because you created space for it. And that space is built on trust. Trust that you won't use her vulnerability against her. Trust that you won't punish her for being human. Trust that you won't make her pay for being complicated. We all have parts of ourselves we've locked away. Stories, fears, flaws, dreams, things that didn't feel safe to reveal. And when you love a woman in a way that welcomes all of that, you become a mirror for her wholeness. The goal of the gray rock, you reflect back to her something she may have forgotten: that she is not too much, that she doesn't have to be anyone other than exactly who she is. And that doesn't mean there won't be tension or conflict or hard moments. Loving someone fully always invites discomfort. But if your love only shows up when things are easy, then it's not freedom. It's conditional acceptance in disguise. The real test is whether you can stay when her truth gets messy, whether you can love her when she's unfiltered, not just when he's beautiful and composed. Because when a woman feels free to be her whole self, she doesn't just show you who she is. She gives you a kind of love that's rooted, alive, and fiercely honest. She stops hiding. She starts living. And she brings you with her